all good things must come to an end, and that run, starting in 1984 when Vince spirited away Hogan in the middle of the night, and then Hogan obviously had the pull because Vince wanted to build around him, so he had the pull to say, well, I want this guy, and this guy interviews me well, this guy bumps for me well, this guy puts me over well, and I like to have this guy around. And they all go away.
What happened is we always ran our battle royals. We got Andre from Vince Sr. every October. So October 1st, September, August it started picking up for us. September, school started, it was so-so. October, from there to April 30th was huge business. That's where we did all our business. So they'd bring Andre in October 1st and kick off the battle royals. And we'd run about, that's when we'd run hard. We'd run 30 days. We'd run every night. With the winner, then Thanksgiving would meet Bachman or whoever the champion was. Well, in St. Paul, it just happened. It was an accident. There was about 5 guys left in the ring, and Andre had thrown somebody out, and he backed up, and he backed right into Hogan. And they just kind of turned and looked at each other, and the place went,
oh, yeah, there you go.
They were just waiting for something. So Vern said, okay, that's it. He called Vince the next day, said, Vince Sr., I got to get Andre for February, the whole month of February. Okay, you got him. So Hogan was going to Japan, and we had our Thanksgiving match, and then we were booked Christmas night in St. Paul, and then we had San Francisco, Chicago, Milwaukee, Winnipeg, Denver, all going. All sold out. We had Hogan in 6-man tag team matches with us, and every place was sold out. The 19th of December, Vern gets a telegram. What Vern was going to do in February was book Hogan
and Andre
all the way around our cities, and then in April, drop the belt to him. But he never told anybody this because he didn't want it out there.
Telephone, telegraph, telewrestler.
You know.
They would have known.
Right.
Yeah.
So Vern was always really tight-lipped about what we were doing. So he gets this telegram from Tampa, Florida. I'm not coming back. And Vern says, Tampa, Florida, it's fucking Eddie Graham. Because they used to rib each other all the time. So he figures it's a rib, so he throws it away. So we get to St. Paul that night, no Hogan. And I called him, and he was home, and he answered. So I said, what are you doing? We got the matches. Oh, I quit. Didn't you get the telegram? I said, what telegram? He told me. I said, well, maybe Vern, he thought Eddie Graham signed it. He thought it was a joke. He said, no, I'm not coming back.
That's the way he gives notice, I'm not coming back, unsigned?
Yeah, and then I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Right? So I said, hey, if you want to go somewhere else, go, but fulfill your commitment. Just finish these dates. I mean, they're sold out. You can't do that. That isn't the way to do business. And I said, you know, Vern had some big plans for you down the road. Well, I've already made my decision. You should have talked to me earlier. I said, he talked to you in Phoenix and told you that they were bringing Andre back in February, and we were going to, you know, have this big match. Well, Andre flew to Japan with them and convinced them Vince was doing this big thing, and Vince flew over there and made the deal. So that was that. He never came back.
Within, what was it, less than 6 months, you lost him, you lost Ventura. He took David Schultz just to bounce for him.
That wasn't a big loss.
But
they had the thing going.
That's the thing. He took his own TV announcer, his own opponent, his own partner,
his own everybody.
Right. So now you've got the talent you made coming back into work, and at that point he was also trying to snatch up the TV time slots because he got to St. Louis. How many of yours did he
walked right into Minneapolis. Stu Schwartz, who ran the TV station, a good friend of ours. His father was my dad's good friend, and they got back in the early '60s on TV with them, and then the kid took over, and he was still, you know, good friends. He said Vince walked in with a briefcase of $250,000. He said, here, this is yours. Put our TV on in Vern's time slot. And he's one of the few guys that didn't do it.
Jesus Christ.
San Francisco, it took us 3 years to build the market up. We had our first big sellout coming in. And 6 weeks before, we're down in St. Louis in a meeting with Bill Watts, Crockett's, and all of them. They're getting their USA Wrestling deal going. Yeah. And Vern gets a call from San Francisco. We'd bartered the time. He said, hey, I'm taking your TV off. He said, what do you mean you're taking our TV off? We just sent you all the tapes for the next 6 weeks. He said, I'm putting McMahon in there. He's paying me $2,000 a week. So Vern said, okay, I'll pay you $2,500. So it got up to like $3,500, $4,000, I think was our last bid. And he says, okay, you're in. He says, we're done? Yep, you're in. Good. And all of a sudden, we run the card, and our TV show had never been on. The tapes came back after that, and the guy said, Vince gave me $5,000 a week.
At that point, and really, he made an experiment with Jumbo Tsuruta as champion for a while, but
that was because of Bubba, our connection with Bubba.
Right,
yeah.
for a Japanese deal, and Bubba had done that years before with the NWA title, but with the exception of Nick, all of a sudden the champions, I don't want to say take a disturbing turn, but it didn't seem AWA-like. Rick Martel, great worker.
Well, that was, you know what, you know who sold that one? Was Nick. He wanted Rick. He wanted to drop. Because
he had a nice baby face to work with, and he was athletic.
He was, but he didn't have the...
I didn't see Rick Martel getting over in Green Bay at a bar, right?
No, he got over with the girls, but he didn't have the men didn't buy it.
Yeah.
You know, they want, I don't know, he was too pretty. Well, then, he just didn't have the charisma. And I don't like to say that because I love Rick to death. He was great in the ring, but, it didn't work.
Then you got one that the men would believe in, and he wasn't too pretty, but that didn't work out. Stan Hansen.
Oh, Stan was a handful. He would have worked out. He just didn't listen. He didn't want to listen.
The guys that had at that point, and we were going through it down south with some of our opponents would get Japanese deals where they'd be gone for a month and they were making big money per week. But that's why we never went, because we were always figured in, and it wouldn't have been that much more money than we were already making at home.
Well, if you're a champion, Bubba paid him pretty good.
Yeah, well, obviously,
So Stan used that for his deal over there.
As a single and a top guy like that, but it was hard to keep a championship on somebody whose first loyalty was somebody else.
I mean, Shawn Michaels, I found Shawn and Marty Jannetty, put them together. Once they got established, boom, every time you worked your ass off to get somebody established, Vince would grab them. You couldn't hang on to them.
But then you ended up, after Nick took the belt and put it on Curt Henning, you ended up with a guy who was an updated, souped-up version of an old-time AWA wrestler. He was physically believable, but his work, he took it to the next level. He was more exciting. He got a year's run with it, but at that point, almost every territory besides Crockett, everybody's business was going downhill. You still had ESPN, and the Pro Wrestling USA thing had not worked out because none of the promoters could agree, and the whole thing that we know. But at that point, had you already moved to the Showboat in Vegas when Curt won the belt? You already you've got the national TV on ESPN. It's more of an arena setting. You've got Curt. What was the idea to try and compete at that point? Was it more of you couldn't run a full house show schedule anymore because nobody was going to house shows?
We were making money on the TV. Yeah. The Showboat was paying us, and ESPN was paying us, and that's why we could keep. That's the only way we could keep going.
Yeah.
And ESPN wanted us to incorporate new talent and try to get, steal people from McMahon, but Slaughter finally
steal
left
people
and
to
came
steal something from Fort Knox while you're at it.
Yeah.
Their contracts are indentured servitude at that point.